Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Thank y'all, everybody, for staying with us as we progress through the show. Want to be down with us? Call us at 804-402-2893 is the number to dial. We getting a hit from our brother Kate Up, listening to us in ATL. He says Adrian Peterson got in more trouble for disciplining his child than a police officer has gotten for killing an unarmed teen. Big group. As I kind of stepped off of my soapbox in that last segment, it just dawned on me that I didn't give you an opportunity to respond. So go ahead and tell me tell our listeners what your response is to what we were talking about in that last segment before we move on to the next piece.
Like, honestly, Marcus, you and I have completely different views on the race situation and all that. I understand you, and I understand why you would feel such a way, because the media just puts all of it in our face considerably when there are a whole bunch of other kids dying by cops. Or, hey, nobody talks about the Ohio State football player who was found in a dumpster after he shot himself in the head. But, I mean, it happens.
Why do we care about that? But how does that have anything to do with what we're talking about?
But what I'm saying is, see, that's what I'm saying. I understand where you feel like, hey, police don't like black people. All they do is shoot black people all day. It's easy.
That's not what I said.
Or the race cars being played all the time and all that.
I mean, just you even going there tells me you didn't hear a word I said.
But I understand why you feel such a way. Because the media puts it in our face.
It ain't got nothing to do with the media. It's got everything to do with the facts. I just read facts, man.
I
didn't read my feelings. I gave it to you with my feelings, but I read you facts, man.
Correct.
Yeah.
But if the facts weren't in your face 24/7, how would you even know?
Would still be the facts, and that is the most ludicrous thing I think I've ever heard you say, ever. You mean to tell me you gonna sit here and say just because I don't know means it's not that bad? That's what you said. That's what you just said.
Well, but I'm not. What I'm saying is,
I can't believe you said that.
I didn't say that.
That is what you said.
That's not what I said.
You said the media puts it in my face. That's why I know.
But does the media put it in your face when black cops kill white kids? That doesn't mean it's not happening.
Does it happen? 21? Is it 21% more likely to happen?
Do we know? Do we really know?
I think we know.
Do you know?
I think we know.
You assume that you know.
I'm not. I don't have the numbers. No, I don't. But I'll tell you, Ruben. If you've studied history, which I know you have, this take a look at the other side argument that you're giving me is so disheartening to hear, man. Because I'm so sick and tired of hearing black people apologizing for being angry.
Who's apologizing?
You are. By sitting here telling me, well, black cops might shoot white kids too. Even giving me that argument is an apology.
Apology for what?
That's an apologist attitude for sitting here and giving you facts about how this goes down with us by making me or making our audience be subjected to, well, it might happen to them too, but the media tells it about black kids, so we don't know. Like that argument is just.
You can say what you want, but,
I know.
But the media runs everything. The media runs everything. It tells us what to quote unquote think. It tells us what to quote unquote do. It tells us what to quote unquote buy. It does that. That's the purpose of it. So I'm not saying that.
If it was important to you, you can go and find the numbers, and I guarantee you they're nowhere even near close to the same. And you know it. I know you know it. So for you to sit here,
I don't know it.
You honestly believe in your heart of hearts that it is possible that black cops shoot white unarmed kids?
I believe in my heart of hearts
in the same numbers.
I believe in my heart of hearts that I don't know. But you want to sit here and you want to talk about all this other stuff. What we should be talking about is why all this stuff is happening. Because the problem is we're not taking care of our kids. There is no reason that a 12-year-old boy should be walking around with a BB gun in his pocket, walking around the city with a BB gun in his pocket for whatever reason.
So we should be taking care of Eric Garner, and we should be taking care of Amadou Diallo, and we should be taking care of Sean Bell, and we should be taking care of Trayvon Martin, and we should be taking care of Jordan Davis, and we should be taking care of Oscar Grant, and we should be taking care of all of those people. Don't wave me off, man.
I'm not waving you off. I'm saying keep going, because some of those,
all of them were unarmed, all of them.
And you know what?
And they all were shot and killed
by cops.
Not Jordan and Trayvon weren't, but the rest were.
Okay, and they stopped when a cop came up to them. They stopped and they put their hands up and they did what they're supposed to do.
Eric Garner was accosted by police, and there's video of him standing there when they began to attack him. Eric Garner. Sean Bell was coming out of a club, and they thought that he had guns coming out of a club, and they shot up his car. Amadou Diallo was standing as a vendor in New York City when they came up on him, didn't like that he was there, asked him for ID. When he reached in his pocket for it, they shot him thinking it was a gun. It was his wallet. Okay? Mm-hmm. So Oscar Grant complied with the police. They had his arms behind his back and their knee in his back, and the cop shot him in the back and said, "Oops, my bad. I thought it was my taser."
And and for those unfortunate who died like that, you're right. But I'm sorry, man. A 12-year-old walking around with a BB gun, I can't feel it, man.
You can't feel it. And I just gave you a grown ass man doing the same
exactly
thing. And so the kid gets 2 seconds, and the grown man got 15 minutes.
Look, man, I'm not saying everybody's perfect.
Waving the gun.
I'm not saying everybody's perfect.
At people in the park, including the police.
Explain Michael Brown then.
I can't explain what Michael Brown did. I'll be honest with you. I thought there should have been an indictment. Because here's my deal with that. Mm-hmm. Just because you're a police officer does not mean that you can't be guilty of murder.
And I agree with that.
So the fact that there wasn't even an indictment, when we know how the grand jury works, we know that the prosecutor can only give the information to the grand jury that he wants them to have. We know that you can't even have a defense attorney in there presenting any information because it's not about presenting information.
Correct.
And so we think we know, but do we really know everything that would happen? We know what the witnesses who spoke immediately after the incident said. They said that he had his hands up when he took them fatal shots. So maybe he had an altercation at the car, and maybe he took a shot that the officer was trying to defend himself. Hey, that's debatable. There's some that says that that's bullshit, and there's some that says that that's the way it went down. But it does not excuse the witnesses who said that Mike Brown had his hands in the air when he took the fatal shots. So that's how I explain that.
Okay. And look, man, I'm not gonna sit here and be like this shit doesn't happen, because it does happen. But my situation is there are a whole bunch of them. There are a whole bunch of them that that could not have happened if we had taken care of our kids the way we should. I'm not. All right, go ahead.
Hakeem is listening. Hakeem says that he disagrees with you. He says when blacks kill white people or black people, they go to jail. All it is that we're looking for equality in the justice system. Is basically what he's saying. Finish your point.
I'll finish my point.
You finish your point. You don't look like you finished your point.
But
if you say you finish your point, and I agree with them. I think the difference is, we can talk this black on black crime stuff all what you want, but when that happens, how quick is it that somebody gets shot here in Churchill or in Curry Woods in Jersey City, which don't exist no more? But how often does those people immediately get arrested and they go to jail?
Yeah, I'm definitely. I guess my thing is, like, I see all the little memes and stuff go through when a white cop shoots a black person, we're ready to raise hell. However, when black people kill black people, just go to the club, and that ain't right at all.
You're right.
If we're gonna do all this because a white person killed a black person, then we need to do the same thing when black people kill black people.
Yeah,
but if we're not going to do that, then we are imbalanced. That is the situation.
It's an imbalance, Ruben, but the difference is the point that Hakeem just made. When Pookie shoots Day in the street, Pookie goes to jail. He does. You know what I mean? And so there's an imbalance in the justice system, because oftentimes when somebody white kills somebody black, it's somebody white that has on a blue uniform. And those people aren't held to the same justice standard that Pookie might be. And that is the outrage. I agree with you. Anytime somebody black is killed, anytime somebody white is killed, anytime anybody is killed, there needs to be outrage, because that's an unnatural death. The difference is how you are treated and how you're perceived. Here's the thing that we didn't talk about, the 12-year-old. They wanted to attack this boy's family and talk about how his father had all of these charges. That ain't got nothing to do with nothing.
Not at
That
all.
ain't got nothing to do with the fact that the police killed this little boy. Now, you can argue that he was in the street with the gun and he shouldn't have been. I got you. But the difference is how the victim is treated when the skin has melanin in it versus how the offender is when when that person does not have a melanin. We did this story. We got the article from the Huffington Post. A long list of white people who are the offenders, and they say things like he was troubled. But if it's a black victim, you want to make sure that you pull out every single negative thing he ever did in his life. Why are they talking about this boy's parents? Ain't got nothing to do with nothing. Ain't got nothing to do with the fact that the police shot him after 2 seconds of being on the scene. Ain't got nothing to do with that. You don't know. You really don't. And I get the whole shoot to kill thing. But, I mean, this 45-year-old man who waved a gun for 15 minutes didn't get a kill shot. We get a kill shot. And then we have to sit and have grand juries say, well, you know what, I don't see no probable cause to indict. That's the difference. There does not seem to be a level playing field when it comes to the justice system. We can do the numbers, Ruben. They're out there. All you got to do is go to FBI.gov and you'll see that the same crimes that we commit, that they commit, we go to jail for longer times than they do. I'm not making this up. We can call this the race card, but I'm not making this up. Those are numbers that you can find on FBI.gov just like everybody else.
So what are we going to do to fix this?
Well, that's the whole point of us discussing it, because hopefully, there's somebody who is listening to us right now who, I'm not trying to be the guy. I'm not trying to be the guy that, fixes the world.
Oh, of course not.
That's not who I am. That's not who you are. That's not who any of us are. But we need to make sure that we're part of the process. We need to make sure that we go out and vote, and we need to make sure that we hold people accountable when we put them in office. We can't go out and vote for the president and think the work is done. You can't go out and vote for the president and think that you ain't got to do nothing no more. When the midterms come around, you stay home. And then you watch these people and you talk bad about them and say that they ain't nothing, but then you watch them glide into office. It's the close at home offices that really matter. Your local sheriff matters. You know why? Because he's the one that's going to lock your son up. The district attorney, he matters. You know why? Because he's the one that's looking to throw the book at your son. Not to say that the district attorney looking like you would be lenient, but I think that it would be fair if you had a balance with regards to representation. And that's what we can do. That's something that we can do. We also can pool our money. And we also can realize that we have economic power and stop worrying about getting a freaking big screen TV. You can't boycott for one freaking day. One day. You can't show your economic power for one day. Really? When these people boycotted for over a year and they got what they wanted, that was the sacrifice that the previous generation that was able to make. We can't do it because we got to have that thing. That's what we can do. And until we willing to do it, all of us, and we all have a place here. People like Ruben has a place. People like SY has a place. Marcus J, Hakeem, Tony, everybody that was listening tonight. We all have a place and we all have a voice. We ain't got to agree. Usually me and you, we don't even agree on football. We don't agree on nothing. We don't agree on our favorite animals. I like dogs. You don't like dogs.
Dogs suck.
We don't agree on anything. But you know what? It doesn't mean that because we have spirited debates that we can't ultimately realize that we want the same things.
Correct.
And I think that's the problem, because ultimately I'm not sure that everybody wants the same things. And when I say everybody, I mean every community. Ain't no how Steppin with Marcus J. 804-402-2893 is the number to dial to be a part of the discussion. I want to get to a couple of real quick stories. This first one I teased about a movie. This one's about Exodus. Rupert Murdoch defending the Exodus cast, having no people of color in the prominent positions, most notably the lead in the movie being Moses. Rupert Murdoch say he don't understand why anybody would complain about the casting, because he don't know nobody that's black from Egypt. All the Egyptians he ever knew was white. And as a matter of fact, when he tried to walk the statement back, he said, well, they look like they look in the Middle East, but those people had blacks as slaves. And I bring this up like I brought up the Noah situation, not so much that I trust Rupert Murdoch, but we all know who Rupert Murdoch is. Rupert Murdoch is the guy that owns Fox and owns Newsday and owns a whole bunch of news media outlets. And it's people like him who, when you say the media can make you think what you want to think, he owns a large chunk of the media. So what's your thoughts on his comments? What's your thoughts on these movies based on these biblical figures or any historical figures who we know had some melanin in them, but they're being portrayed as having a lack of? What's your thoughts?
First of all, as far as Rupert Murdoch goes, I'm not that big of a fan of him anyway. So it is what it is. As far as movies, man, I mean, honestly, they're movies. It's not a documentary. It's not something that's going to be on a History Channel. So it's a movie. I don't necessarily care. Yeah, of course, there are no black people in the film. It's one person's vision. It is not my vision. I mean, my thing is, if you are educated and you understand, what it is trying to portray, but know what is, the true thing that it is portraying, then it is what it is, man. I'm not going to see it. I wasn't going to see it anyway before I found out one black people in it. It's not my type of movie. Don't really care. But I mean, it's one of those things where it comes down to intelligence and your want to learn information. If you watch this movie and you see all the white people in it and you believe this is the way it happened, then that's fine for you. You just become uneducated. Other than that, I mean, to me, it's a movie. I could care less about that just as much as I care less about the horror movie down the street or whatever. I don't really care.
I can dig it. Ain't no how Steppin Marcus J. We're getting a hit in social media. G is listening to us, referring to the last piece that we were discussing. G states that not only if a police officer sees a white man or a boy with guns, they're likely going hunting. If they're black, the cops would have them in handcuffs and question them. I mean, we played the clip earlier on, G, where the officer happened upon a brother walking down the street with his hands in his pockets. And the 911 call was put out there as a suspicious person. He had his hands in his pockets in Pontiac, Michigan, when it's like cold as hell. So, yeah, I mean, for anybody who just doesn't understand where there is a disconnect with regards to how many in our community feel versus other communities, if you don't get it, then I don't know that you're ever going to get it. And that goes for people inside of our community as well. If you don't get it, then you're not going to get it. But at the end of the day, you don't have all of these people crying foul for no reason. Ain't no how Steppin with Marcus. As far as the Moses thing, as usual, I disagree with you. I understand the point about it being the vision of the filmmakers. But if you're going to make a movie about history, or biblical times, the least you can do is be accurate. And the reality is Jesus looked more like Saddam Hussein than he did Jim Caviezel. And the Moses character, he looks more like Saddam Hussein than, Christian Bale, historically. And so if you're going to make these movies, the least you can do is be historically accurate with regards to the casting. When I saw Australian Russell Crowe playing Noah, it was insulting. This stuff is insulting. It's insulting to me. If it's not insulting to you, then so be it. I'm not going to try to change your mind, but I do think that it's worth discussing. Ain't no how Steppin with Marcus J, live from the Dan Legacy Internet Radio. This one, that's why I want you in on this one first. Now, I'm getting this one from thegrio.com. This one really pissed me off. And I've been a little grumpy on the air tonight and riled up, which is not uncommon. But this one really, really pissed me off. It's about a pastor who in Houston, Texas, who refused to bury a parishioner. Olivia Blair, 93 years old. She recently passed away after being in a coma for months. She was refused her burial because she hadn't attended church while she was sick or paid her recent tithes. Barbara Day is the woman's daughter, indicates the pastor, Walter F. Houston, would not grant her mother burial at Fourth Missionary Baptist Church despite Blair being a church member, forget this, over 50 years. Day says the reason her mother did not pay dues or attend church during the past 2 years was because she was sick, explaining that, quote, for the last 2 years, my mother's been either in a nursing home or she's been in a hospital. In the last few months, she was in a coma. She also lamented that the church only cared about money, saying that even retail stores were more respectful of customers and that she didn't understand why we've come so commercialized with religion. What does this have to do with God? Why can't I give my mother her last wish to be funeralized in the church that she loved so much? She said that, quote, it was like the last insult in the world, end quote. Also indicated that the refusal left her scrambling around town to make funeral arrangements. Wow. Okay, that's why you're up first. What you got?
I have no idea what to say on that, Marcus. That is so unfortunate. For over, 40 years she's been a member of the church.
She's a member of the church for 50 years.
50 years. A member of the church. Last 2 years she didn't pay tithes. I'm sure that the church knows that she is sick. And it just sounds like she's right when she says that they're just money hungry. It's sad that now she has to run around, try to find someone to do her mom's services, and that he won't grant her last wish. It's just sad. I don't even know how to respond to that. Really, just shame on him. Just shame on him.
Big Real, what you think about this, man? I keeping with the religious theme. We did the Moses Exodus movie, and now we're moving to a more modern time. You got this pastor refusing to funeralize this woman because she didn't pay her dues and tithes, even though she apparently had a pretty damn good reason. What you think?
I mean, this just proves what I've believed about the church since I was like 22. Church is... people about to hear it. But church is such a business. It's such a business. And when you start thinking of it like a business, it really opens your eyes to really think, wow, I'm really doing this. Like, don't get me wrong. For a lot of people, it helps them. And for a lot of people, my mother included. My mother goes to church. My mother loves church. And I'm fine with that, However, I'm also fine with praising the Lord in my own sanctuary. Mm-hmm. A long time ago when I was young, decisions were made in the church that I used to go to. Well, I go to, and it's like, these are financial decisions. Why is this happening? Why is this? This doesn't make any sense. I thought the church was supposed to be pure and for everybody and all that. Eyes awoke. This is a business. And does it surprise me? Not at all. It's stupid as hell, but it doesn't surprise me, man. And it's sad, It's sad that the church has become so much of a business that a preacher turns down someone who's given their hard-earned money to the Lord into your church for 50 years, and you have the nerve not to at least bury them. Extremely disrespectful, number one. Everybody in that church needs to walk out. Because he has clearly lost sight, or he has gained the sight that he really wanted to gain, and that's the business sight. Because financially, that's all he's thinking about, the money. Clearly, he's thinking about the money, and it's sad, but
But when you say he's thinking about the money, I don't know. I'm gonna make this point. Let me get Hakeem's quote. In here, Hakeem's still listening. He says he will call us, but he's in the gym right now, getting it in right now. But he gets swole listening. Ain't no hashtag Marcus J. Thank you, brother, and your brother K Dub is listening as well. So I'll make sure that he hears you. What's the thing? The 502 baby thing that y'all say, inside joke between those two brothers. But he's going back to the Moses movie. He's saying that it's Orientalism, it's culture versus imperialism. It's the white man's burden. Let me see. He's pissed at how it's a white dude playing Moses. and he's not one for religion, but he knows the effect that it can have on the minds of the masses, which essentially is what my point. Obviously, Ruben and Hakeem and I, we disagree on that, but we can agree to disagree without being disagreeable. But the point that you just made is similar, Hakeem, to the point that I was making. It's more about the image. But what I'll say about this church thing, man, that might be one of the most outrageous things I think I've ever seen. I mean, I'm not for religion either. I won't be as strong about it as some folks will be, but I'm not for religion at all. You know, I don't subscribe to one. I grew up in a Baptist church. I love that church and I love those people in it. But I'm not one for going back there unless, you know, I got a reason other than Sunday worship. But Sunday worship is just not a reason enough for me to go. And I say that respectfully. But I view religion, even though, well, let me back that up. I view the people who support religion, those folks who are sincere about it, particularly those leaders, pastors, priests, people like that, I hold them in a high esteem because to me they are supposedly the talented 10th. You know what I mean? To use a phrase that W.E.B. Du Bois used, basically there's 10% of the people that's kind of smarter than everybody else. And so when you look at the clergy, to me, that's kind of where I put them. I think that at least that's the way I think it should be. Those are the people who are tasked with leading in something that's so personal, like their relationship with God. And so when I look at somebody who abuses that power that they're getting, I'm having trouble talking because I get real fired up about this stuff. They abuse the power that they've been given by picking and choosing who they decide they will funeralize. And if you will make it as simple as saying it was about money, and I don't say this in a disparaging way to you, Ruben, but my guess is her family had money to pay for her funeral. This was about spite. This was, you ain't been paying us your dues, so now you can't get a funeral. They would have paid for the funeral. I'm sure he would have got paid for his time. But you don't want to do this woman's funeral because she wasn't there, and she wasn't there because she was in a coma? That might be about as outrageous as anything I think we've ever done on the show, man.
Well, I mean, but I think if the tithe money had been coming in for the last 2 years, even though she was sick, I bet you he would have did the funeral.
I'm sure he would have. But you 93 years old. How much money you really think we talking about?
But I understand that.
93.
And that's why I feel like that's kind of part of the way I feel. I feel the way I feel because, you know, I've run through some experiences in my life, you know, learning about how churches work and stuff like that. And it really just, for me, it changed how I feel about the overall structure of the church. Don't get me wrong. You know, there's always a leader who is a pastor, supposedly. But, I mean, it's just one of those things where it's to each his own. And I'm not going to sit here and say, church is bad, so you don't go. It is what it is to everybody. Like, it's a personal thing with you and your spiritual leader. But the situation with this is right. Part of it is spite, but the other part, you know what? I didn't get your tithes for 2 years, so that's less money I didn't make off of you. And you know what? I got a problem with that.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about it that way.
And you know, because I've seen some pastors come and go at different churches, and honestly, I've seen pastors leave because of money. And I understand you got to support yours, you know. But yo, man, when you start getting, there's a place where you take it too far. For me, this dude took it way too far, and like I said, everybody in that church should leave. They should walk out. They should walk out and go somewhere else, or fire this guy. One of the two, because it's so disrespectful that she gave her money, her tithes, to your church because of her personal belief in God. So you can't get rid of You can't get rid of 2 years, man. You can't give her. You can't give her a spot for 2 years.
She don't get a pass.
Yeah, she don't get a pass.
At 93 years old,
Man,
after giving 50 years.
50 years of tithes
to the
Yo,
church.
50 years is 10% of everything you make. And if you are strict with it, it's 10% of everything you make. That's a chunk of change for over 50 years. And she can't get a 2-year. Man, everybody in that church needs to just be like, either you or us.
But you know, it's funny. A lot of folks, and I can't speak for all, but a lot of people are so steadfast with regards to their support of their pastor that ain't gonna happen.
Correct. But you
ain't
gotta
gonna
think
happen.
you gotta think about it now. It's like, damn, when I die, I gotta make sure
But
my
you know
tithes
what,
are
though?
up.
I mean,
So
yeah.
now you're talking about making sure your tithes are up so you can be buried at your church. Are you kidding me?
No, I got you. I'm with you. This is that one time tonight that you and I are firmly together on it because, you know, like I said, I find this story outrageous.
They got
man.
they got a special place of hell for this guy.
Absolutely,
Yeah, he's going.
Yeah, absolutely right. And you know, this is the wolf in sheep's clothing.
Oh,
You know
clearly.
what I mean? You know, and I just have a hard time.
That's the one they warn you about.
Yeah, man, I got a hard time with people who find deity and then they use it as a means to make money. I got a hard time with that, man. It's like I don't expect you to be poor. I don't expect you to give away all of your possessions to your parishioners. I don't expect none of that. But I do expect for you to live like your parishioners live. You know, I don't expect you to live high on a hog while they are taking scraps. You know, I don't expect you to be driving a Lexus while they're driving a Hyundai Excel that don't even exist no more. You know what I mean? And I don't expect you to pick and choose who you're going to funeralize. You know, because at the end of the day,
It shouldn't be his choice.
at least a hospital, they know they're supposed to treat everybody. We'll
Yeah.
worry about the money later.
You know, the killer is churches are 501c3s,
Yeah,
tax free.
exactly.
So they're not even paying the government.
Well, that's the reason. Well, you know why? You know why they're 501c3s, right? You know what's a big part of that? Because they can't be partisan.
Exactly.
That's why. After the civil rights movement, they realized how churches were the figures of the civil rights movement. People like Martin Luther King and even the Nation of Islam to a lesser degree.
Mhm.
But you know, when they got that tax exempt, a big part of it is they cannot be partisan, which is the reason why you almost never hear prominent pastors come out in support of political parties.
Not come out, but they will preach it on Sunday.
Well, they'll preach it on Sunday because they know that they're going to get a nice fat donation from candidate Reuben to come in there and speak, or candidate SY or candidate Marcus J to come in there and speak, you know, and say what they going to say. You know what I mean? So Reuben could come to the church and say whatever he want to say, but Marcus J, if he's the pastor, ain't going to come behind him and co-sign that. Pay attention to your churches, people. You ain't going to see that happen. And you know how Steppin with Marcus J. Last thing I want to get to before we get on out of the subject is a cautionary tale. It's a cautionary tale. That's why I want you on this one first. Don't be talking about other people's kids. Don't be talking about other people's kids. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about the Obama girls. Several news outlets covered the turkey pardon, which every single president for the last million years has always done. I think it's corny as hell. I think it's stupid. I think it's a waste of time. I think it's something that one president, whoever he may be or she in the future, needs to come out and say, we're tired of this. We ain't doing this mess no more. It's stupid. But President Obama did it last week, and Sasha and Malia, his 13 and 16-year-old daughters, were standing there at the podium looking pretty damn indifferent to it, you know, because they, at 13 and 16, realized how stupid it was.
Because it's dumb.
They had their arms folded, rolled their eyes, twiddled their thumbs. Of course, the president kind of awkwardly fumbled his way through talking about it, as they all do, because I think all the presidents realize that it's stupid. But there was one person, Elizabeth Loudon, who is she was, which we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a moment. But she was the media. I believe she was the media organizer for a congressman, U.S. congressman out of Tennessee. And I'm going to read you her quote in its entirety. She says, "Dear Sasha Malia, I get you're both in those awful teen years, but you're a part of the first family. Try showing a little class. At least respect the part you play. Then again, your mother and father don't respect their positions very much, or the nation for that matter, so I'm guessing you're coming up a little short in the good role model department. Nevertheless, stretch yourself, rise to the occasion, act like being in the White House matters to you, dress like you deserve respect, not a spot at a bar, and certainly don't make faces during televised public events. Elizabeth Loudon, who is or was responsible for the congressional, she's a congressional spokesperson. She was in charge of media for U.S. congressmen. I have it here. Communications director for U.S. Rep. Steve Fincher, a Republican from Tennessee. So that's why we got it all set up. What's your thoughts on this?
Marcus, I saw that.
Did you?
I read that article, I believe it was yesterday or the day before yesterday. And I just laughed at this lady. I'm like, what an idiot. You know, at 6, like we already said, it's a stupid thing. The freaking pardoning of the turkey. Turkey's going to die. We're going to eat the turkey. It's done. It's a stupid little thing that they do. And yeah, if I was 16 or 12 or 13 and I'm standing there while my dad is doing that, I'm going to express a little boredom too. I'm going to roll my eyes, fold my arms, whatever the teenagers are doing. There is no need for her to get on. I think it was her Facebook or something.
It was her personal Facebook page.
Her Facebook page.
Her personal Facebook page.
And call herself, you know, shouting out some stink remarks to these kids. So, yeah, I was waiting. I love how they said they reamed her so bad on her page. I think they said she shut it down and made it private by 11.
Yeah, within minutes.
Yeah, good for her.
They laid her out.
This is not your space. That's not for you to speak on. You don't reprimand anybody's kids on your Facebook page. Nonetheless, in your position, the president of the United States. So yeah, if they chopped her for that, very good. I'm glad. I read some of the comments back to her about having a little class and not attacking children. And I mean, good for her.
But you know what's crazy about that? I mean, she said that they need to have class, but this is a person who just attacked a 13 and a 16-year-old girls and insulted their mother and father. Mm-hmm. Insulted, talking about they don't have respect for the country. I mean, come on, really rude. This woman, 9 hours after her initial post, obviously she had to change her heart, or maybe somebody got in that ass, because she said, quote, I wanted to take a moment and apologize for a post I made on Facebook earlier today, judging Sasha and Malia at the annual White House turkey pardoning ceremony. Now you can tell that is scripted, because she specifically says who she's talking about, and specifically the venue, which speaks of an Olivia Pope type of fix. She says, quote, I reacted to an article and quickly judged the two young ladies in a way that I would have never wanted to be judged myself. After many hours of prayer, talking to my parents, and rereading my words online, I could see more clearly how hurtful my words were. Please know that these judgmental feelings truly have no place in my heart. Furthermore, I'd like to apologize to all those who I have hurt and offended with my words, and I pledge to learn and grow, and I assure you I have from this experience. Took her 9 hours to learn and grow, y'all.
So it took her 9 hours, a whole lot of talking, praying, but she's only addressing those who she may have hurt. She didn't even take a second in that little scripted speech they gave her to address
the people
president
she offended
and the first lady, because that's what you should have said. These are not people that you offended.
Yeah.
You offended the president of the United States.
I didn't even think about that, because when you look at it, she says specifically, here's the pieces that outrage me. That's why. Then again, your mother and father don't respect their positions very much, so I guess you're coming up a little short in a good role model department. That part was bad. But then when she said, dress like you deserve respect, not a spot at a bar.
Yes, Lord.
13 and 16. 13 and 16. Now, I got a photograph of what they had on, and they were dressed like preppy teenage girls.
Thank you very much. I saw their little dresses, their little outfits standing there.
My daughter has dressed very similar to them.
She said exactly what she wanted to say, and now she got, like you said, somebody put their foot in it.
Yep.
She got it.
Yep.
and she can't get out of it now.
Well, she can't because her ass got fired.
Good.
Big Rube. What you think, man?
Very good.
I got 2 words for you.
I already know what they are. We haven't heard it in a while, so go ahead.
Nah,
man.
not those 2
Not
words.
those two.
Not those. Not those
Not
two.
those 2 words.
Career suicide.
Career suicide. Okay.
I mean,
we know what we thought you were.
Yeah, I know.
And
Yeah,
that's-
we can't. We're not ready for that. She is definitely close to that, but she's not ready for that. Yeah, career suicide, man. I mean, hey, what 2 people that I can piss off that will make me quit my job and never get a job in government again? Let me think about. How about the president and his wife? And they don't have to say anything, which is the most beautiful thing ever.
They haven't said a word.
Nope.
And they're not going to say a word
Nope.
because they don't have to. Because what it did, it not even. See, you're looking at. Well, you know, they kind of said the president and the wife, yeah, whatever. It talked crap about them. You know who it really affected negatively? Her boss.
Oh yeah.
Really? Oh, what? House Representatives?
I could keep you now.
I mean, he's on the House. He's on the House. He's a Republican. Thanks for drawing undue attention to
To
me.
me, yeah.
Because honestly, his name is like Stephen Tolman or something. I couldn't tell you who that dude was if he was walking down the street with a sign that said Stephen Tolman on it. Now, oh my God, everybody
know
knows
who
who
he
he is. And I can see it all right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey,
It's actually Steve Fincher, but yeah,
Fincher,
I
whatever.
I got you.
Stephen Fincher.
Yeah.
You better
We
go ahead and
know.
get you something new. You done pissed off the president. What are you talking about? Your girl did something on Facebook. Facebook? And, you know, of course he had to go to probably his daughters or sons. But what does this chick do on Facebook? Because he probably don't have Facebook. He's probably 80 years old as far as I know. He's probably been there so long nobody knows who he is. Because he ain't never left his seat.
Oh,
So,
you know his name now.
you know,
Welcome to Cheers.
she resigned my ass. She got canned.
fired.
He was like, yo, yeah, don't come back. Yeah, just don't come back. We'll send you your stuff somewhere.
Here's a question that I want to ask. This one's for Ruben, and that's why I, jump in after Ruben. But when we talk about the race card, and I'm gonna bring it back up because there is precedent for attacking presidents. There's not a lot of precedent for attacking first ladies the way they come after Michelle Obama. I mean, they went in pretty good on Hillary Clinton, but I really going back. I mean, Betty Ford was a drunk. They didn't go after her for being a drunk. They say nothing about either of the Bush wives that I could think of, except
Not
for
the wives, but the kids got a little press out there.
well, the kids got
Yeah,
pressed
kids
because
got
they
some
were
other things,
drunks
too.
and they
Yeah.
got caught being drunks.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
And
so
they didn't care.
and they were grown at the well, they weren't 21, which was
Well,
part of the
and
story.
Chelsea was an ugly kid.
Yeah,
so.
but I mean, do you? But see, the point is, if you have a problem with Marcus J, then come to Marcus J with your problem. Don't talk about my child. Don't talk about my family, because that's a punk move. It really is. It's a punk move. They picked on, Amy Carter because she was 9 years old reading a freaking book during a speech her father was giving. And they picked on, Chelsea Clinton, like you said, because she had the misfortune of going through her physical awkward stage while her dad was the freaking president. And the Bush girls got it because they got in trouble. But the Obama girls at 13 and 16 have literally been model citizens. They've done nothing. They have done nothing. You know what I mean? And so for this woman to come out and say what she said was a shot to them when she said they look like they need to be on a bar stool, but it was a direct shot at the president. And so, and his wife. And so what I wanted to kind of bring up is the kind of shots that they take at our current president. They took shots at other presidents, but these shots today seem to be mean-spirited, a little bit more so than they used to be. And if I'm sensitive because I'm a black man and I look at him and I see a black man, then I'll cop to that. I absolutely will cop to that. I mean, I don't see a half white guy. I see a black dude. I just do. That's just what I see. And I know that's what a lot of his opponents see. They see a black dude, just like I do. So what do y'all think about that?
Well, it's first of all, I got a couple things. One, honestly, who is brave enough? I mean, really brave enough to take a legitimate in-your-face pot shot at the president?
They've been doing it like
No, not to his face. They take pot shots on some of the stuff he may say. They never take a pot shot directly at him. It's always
the congressman
with it
said.
to the
The
side.
congressman in Congress said you lie. You know,
But they tell every president that.
governor,
That's not a pot shot.
Yeah, they're not in Congress and not in open session, and you've never seen a governor get in the president's face and wave her finger.
Well,
at him.
yeah, that was a pot shot.
You never saw those kinds of things before. You just didn't, but you see it with this president.
Well, I mean, because they want him to flip. They want him to turn.
And why is that?
Because they think that he is.
It's just one more bad thing.
He is ultimately just gonna go crazy and just do whatever.
But why?
Because
What's special about him?
Because he's black.
Okay, good. That's what I was getting at. I was waiting for you.
I mean,
Because if you disagree with that, then that's fine.
Well, no,
and I'm not saying you. I'm just saying a listener. If you disagree with that, then fine. Call me up and tell me why his policies are so bad that you want to say some of the most nastiest, vile things. They talk about now how the kids aren't even his kids and how they adopted them from Morocco. Look at them; they don't even look like them. I mean, these are the nastiest things that you can say about a person.
But I guess what I'm saying is, the first 4 years or whatever, they took pot shots directly, and he's like, nah, he doesn't flinch. So they got to find other ways to take pot shots. So, hey, let's talk about Michelle Obama. That didn't really work. Let's talk about the kids. And that is proven not to work either. So it's just one of those things. And second of all, we talked about this earlier. Why do people feel like Facebook is, I can say what I want and nobody can do anything to me?
Stupid.
I mean, really?
With 2 O's.
I mean,
Stupid.
I mean, because first of all, the fact that she put it on Facebook clearly meant that she meant it.
Let it out, yep.
And she wanted everybody to know what she felt like. So, hey, let's put it out there. And boom. She probably, if she would put it out on a tweet, half the people probably wouldn't have saw it, but it would have got caught. It just, I mean, if you're going to do this dumb stuff, make people work for it. Don't sit there and put it on my face. I hate Barack and his kids are stupid. Come on, man. I mean, do you want to work anymore in America? You can go work for the Tea Party at this point.
That to me speaks to the entitlement and the fact.
Of course,
it speaks to the entitlement, and it speaks to how comfortable this person must have been to think that the people who would have seen that would be so in her corner, like, oh, of course, I agree with you. That's entitlement. You know what I mean? That's what that is. She felt comfortable, and I think that's the problem, because I think the fact that we've got this particular president who happens to be a black man, I think you've got a lot of people finding out who their Facebook friends are. Mm-hmm. And that's just real talk. I mean, the things that, your Facebook friends used to say, in behind closed doors, they're now saying in public.
And some people can't be associated with that.
Some people can't be associated with that, but I'll be honest with you. I mean, I really feel strongly about the fact that if you can't say what you just said on Facebook, in a crowd, then you probably shouldn't say it. And that's just, I mean, that is what it is. If you're a black man and you saying something that you don't think that your white friends would approve of, and you think that you would be feeling some sort of uncomfortable way around them the next time you saw them, then you should probably not say those things.
Yeah.
And
at all.
And, yeah. I mean, and I'm one of those people. I try to be honest and I try to be fair, but at the end of the day, I'm a black man and I support my own first. Some people have a problem with that. Some people don't like how that sounds. But at the end of the day, you're going to take care of your family before you take care of the neighbor's family. Mm-hmm. And you're going to take care of your neighborhood before you take care of the next neighborhood, right?
Yep.
So I don't see anything wrong with that logic. Every other community does it. Every community does it. Hispanic people take care of their own. Jewish people take care of their own. Why don't you take a look and see how many times the Jewish dollar fluctuates around the Jewish community before it leaves, and compare it to black people. And then tell me that we're wrong for wanting to support our own first. It's got to start somewhere. And if you can't say what you just said on Facebook in front of everybody, then you probably shouldn't have said it. Ain't no how stepping with Marcus J. It's a late hour. We're going to take our final break of the night. We're going to come back with our rants and closings. I did say earlier on that we're going to do a segment from now on for a little while on this day in history. We did a little bit of it earlier on with Rosa Parks and commemorating the fact that on December 1st, 1955 was the day that she decided that she wasn't getting off the bus. She said, hell no, take me to jail. They took her to jail. And we know that that act is what eventually led to Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. coming to prominence. But also today would have been the 74th birthday of one Richard Pryor. And why am I talking about Richard Pryor? Richard Pryor was one of the most brilliant comics ever to grace the stage. Anybody who's ever picked up a microphone and told jokes would tell you that. But he was also a very astute watcher of the social scene and paying attention to everything that went on around him. And one thing in particular that he spoke on was the use of the N-word. Anybody who listened particularly to his earlier, more classic material knows that it was littered, absolutely littered with the N-word, nearly every other word. But he, like many others before and after him, came to the conclusion that that vile, nasty word should never be uttered. And in this clip that I'm going to play for you now, he explains to you why. For those folks who are sensitive about coarse language, you may want to turn the volume down or step away for a minute or so, because he does use the word in the clip. We have a ban on the word here at Legacy Internet Radio. Some folks slip it in, they still say it. But in spirit, we choose not to say it. But for the purposes of the historical context of this clip and why we feel that it's necessary to never use it, we're going to allow the language here on the show. So if you're sensitive to language, turn the radio down, come back in a minute. But this is Richard Pryor talking about why he never used the N-word again. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we got our rants and we got our closings. Ain't No How Steppin' with Marcus J with Big Rube and SY. Be back in a few minutes.